Townscaper is a game about nothing. You start in the void and you end in the void, just a little bit less empty. But this is not a philosophy video. This is a build video. I started with these floating islands that I made a while ago. I wasn't really sure what I was gonna do with this map, but I think what I would like to do is try something new, building a big ass island underneath these floating platforms so that it's kind of like a city with castles floating on top of it. This massive island ended up taking up basically the entire space on the map that I was allowed to use up. Filling it in took me like over an hour. This is gonna sound insane, but I think I did literally hurt my finger from clicking so much. It was a little difficult to figure out the shape of the island, but one thing I did end up doing was leaving some extra islands kind of chunked off from the mainland. I think what we will end up doing with them later is making them into their own sort of castle, similar to what the floating islands will be. If you're wondering how I made these floating islands, let me know in the comments and maybe I'll make a little tutorial about it. And there we have it, a gigantic, totally empty slab of concrete that all of our dreams can float on. The next stage is to create a border which will go around the entire island. Once we do that, the inside will be filled with grass, and then we can move on to building houses and stuff inside that space. Do it. Do it. Yeah! Now that's what I'm really here for. So I have a specific idea in mind for the walls. I want them to be kind of neutral. So we're gonna have the white on the bottom, then beige. We're gonna make the bases of the towers kind of brown just to differentiate them a little bit, and then white on top. And that's all a little bit more interesting than just plain white walls, but not so interesting that if we add a bunch of rainbow buildings in the middle, it'll be distracting. We're also gonna go through and do similar stuff for each of the top islands. These are gonna be like primarily white, again, just so that it doesn't end up being too visually cluttered. A nice tip for Townscaper is that if you make a wall around an island like this too high, then you can poke holes in the bottom layer to open up little archways, and those archways create like a road system. I don't know if there's any other way to make these roads, but they're so cute. I think they add a ton of detail. I lost a little bit of footage, so I hope you'll forgive me. In the meantime, what I did off camera was execute the plan. We have our nice neutral wall. We've built some white castles on top of these floating islands, and we are now making a nice smooth rainbow gradient across the rest of the island. We also have a raised portion in the back, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Townscaper gives you these nice rainbow colors to work with. You can see that there are lighter and darker versions of basically every color. We have burgundy and red, blue and teal, that sort of thing. So we're pairing up two of those colors, and then we're making stripes of each of those pairs of colors across the main island. The idea being when you zoom all the way out, it's gonna look like a smooth transition of colors. It's gonna be really, really pretty. And then on the back side, I'm gonna make the same rainbow gradient, but just tall. Look at that. It's turning out great. Is it just me, or do these tiny little houses look like candies? Like, they look like they would each have tastes. Like the yellow ones would be lemon and the purple would be grape. Why do I make everything about eating? Who am I kidding? We know why. Turned out even better than I hoped. The yellow really pops, makes it look nice and bright, and you get that really nice smooth gradient. So this back section is all tiered up just to add some visual interest. I decided it would be kind of cool to have a section that was also water. So that's what we're doing back here, is we're adding like a little bit of a pond kind of area that's sunken in. Looking pretty good. And you can really see like the different layers of this back section when you zoom out. I ended up making some edits to like where the layers stopped and started. I decided after a little bit of deliberation that they looked best when there was just one brick between each tier. So we're modifying the walls to reflect that and changing the shape a little bit to be a bit nicer. And then we are gonna add buildings at the end. I'm so happy with how the floating castles turn out. I have no idea how people are supposed to get up there. But they're so pretty, and it really is achieving like the effect that I wanted. Can you imagine if you live in one of these tiny little houses down below, and then you look up, there's just this giant floating castle above you with giant propellers? I mentioned at the beginning that I was kind of planning to do something with these tiny islands that are broken off from the mainland. And actually I ended up adding a couple of more, but I'm not sure. Should I actually build castles on them? Should I leave them just like fields? Or maybe I should populate them with smaller buildings? Let me know what you think in the comments, because I'm still debating. From above, you can see how nice these extra little islands look. I might add another one here in this section. Really, really pretty, really love it. And it's time for the pièce de résistance. We are gonna add the rainbow towers. So we're starting with the burgundy color because that matches with the gradient below. Instead of pairing up two different colors the way I did below, we are just going to make buildings purely out of one color at a time. And I think that'll add a smoother gradient, but also I think since these buildings have to be kind of tall, it won't be as noticeable that there isn't very much variation. So yeah, that's my plan. It was actually surprisingly really difficult to come up with all these different variations of buildings. I wanted stuff that was interesting enough to not be boring to look at, but wasn't so interesting that it became visually cluttered. But I think that actually all of these plain spires worked out in favor of like the mood. I also kind of had to keep in mind in this top portion that things in the back were gonna have to be taller so that they could be seen over top of the other colors of building. I wanted some like chunkier buildings. I added some that were like tiered on top of each other. Yeah, I just did my best. It's actually looking so great. I'm really, really happy with it, but I'm just barely gonna have space for like orange buildings back here. So I started to try to brainstorm some ways to add in space for red buildings. In order to attempt to fit in red buildings, I decided to add to the island in the back, but I didn't really like how it looked. It just kind of looks like I stuck this on afterwards, which, let's be honest, that is literally what I'm doing. So what I decided to do was separate this from the rest of the island. When I did that though, the island became very obviously way too small for red buildings to go on top of. But I did really like the shape of this little section. I mean, it kind of looks like a hotel or something to me. I kept that little island, but I didn't end up putting any red buildings on it. With that, most of the island is kind of done. Really pleased with how the towers worked out. Super pleased with how all of the little buildings on the bottom layer turned out. So pretty. I love it. I love the rainbow buildings. They're my favorite part. If you guys enjoy this video, maybe I will make some more and continue to work on this island. As always, you can come watch me build things like this live on my Twitch stream every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I'm your mom, signing off. Bye. Goodbye. 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 Bye. Goodbye. 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 Bye. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.